Hi, my name's Blake Tucker. You may remember me from such films as Finding Nemo and Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. This week I'll be playing Dr. Inkwell because I don't want you to drink more, I want you to drink well. If you haven't had a chance to play Distilled, a spirited strategy game yet, you can learn from the mixologist at Gen Con Indianapolis in August or at KublaCon here in the Bay Area in just a few weeks. I'm doing a video series about the spirits of Distilled, and this week, gin is in.
Worst episode ever.
I posted previously about how vodka is a neutral spirit made from grapes, grain, or other materials, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That is the first step in making gin. That's right, gin is made from vodka. So what's the difference? Juniper berries. While we call them juniper berries, they're actually the cones of the juniper tree. So gin is not infused with fruit, but actually seeds, which can account for the sometimes piney flavor that you could get from a very dry gin. So gin is essentially juniper flavored vodka. While the requirements for calling something gin vary a little bit throughout the world, juniper is always a constant. Most distillers will round out the flavor of the juniper with ingredients like coriander, angelica, orris root, or citrus, and London Dry is the most common style of gin out there, but that is in fact a reaction to the original style of gin. So I guess we need to take a moment to talk about the origin.
I think you could have avoided that.
The Dutch word for juniper is jenever, which is also the name of their juniper-infused spirit. When the British saw this, they pronounced it Genever, which eventually got shortened to gin. And as the British public started making this at home on their own, they distilled to a much higher proof. So they started putting additives in to make it a little more palatable for the whole family. Things like sugar, fruit, etc. And yes, I said the whole family because juniper was thought to be healthy, and since the dangers of alcohol were not well known, yes, kids drank gin back in the day. If you're curious, this original homemade style of gin is a lot like today's Old Tom gins or even some gin liqueurs. With the ubiquity of adulteration in the homemade gins of the 17 and 1800s, there arose a contrary style of gin in London as home distilling became illegal. This eponymously named London Dry was the predominant style of gin for more than a century. Today, risk takers have started making gin with unusual and sometimes wonderful new ingredients like tomato, kelp, or regional spices. Many people call this new style of gin contemporary, and since there are no restrictions on where gin can be made, gin today is a worldwide phenomenon. Woohoo! Choosing the right gin for your cocktail is imperative. Because gin is so diverse with wildly different flavor profiles, you can very easily unbalance your cocktail or have clashing flavor notes. Are you looking for a dry martini? Then a dry gin is probably the best choice. Are you trying to experiment with a Negroni recipe? Maybe a contemporary gin can bring some new and interesting flavors to that recipe. If you're making a classic Martinez, nothing is as good as an Old Tom gin. Before substituting gin in any cocktail, it's worth understanding what the original recipe is calling for and what style you might be substituting. If you're looking for new recipes, I put a few on screen. In the Distilled Game, we wanted to incorporate this well-known spirit while also recognizing the importance of juniper in making gin. But we also needed to make great game mechanics. While the juniper in gin doesn't actually help as a sugar in creating the alcohol, we made juniper berries a fruit sugar card to make the game flow well, to balance the spirits you can make, and to make gin an available label for all players. However, for the London Dry gin distiller Mother Mary Genever, we do require the juniper berry's signature ingredient to be present. To help those new to gin, we use the word dry in both the signature ingredient and the signature recipe. We decided to make gin unaged, but it's not unusual to barrel age a gin. You know, in my time at Pixar, it was nearly required that you perfect your geek voice so that you can complain about little details. So with that, I will say, technically, it's the other ingredients that determine whether a gin is an Old Tom style, a contemporary style, or a London Dry style.
I will register my disgust on the internet.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share this with your friends so that I can become a social media ginfluencer.
I'm not going to dignify that with a comment.